good? Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been, this meeting is being held in accordance with the scheduled meetings adopted at our organizational meeting held January 5th, 2022. Adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Kenilworth Board of Education has been provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, and the local source on January 20th, 2022. A copy has been filed with the Kenilworth Borough Clerk, posted in the board office, the Kenilworth Borough Hall, Brearley and Harding Schools, as is provided by the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you, Mr. Ganella. Please join us and rise to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Ganella, can we please have roll call?
Biner. Here. David.
Here.
Drogan. Here. Haberther. Here. Jankowitz. Here. Ladati. Here. Panici.
Here.
Tiers.
Here.
Zimmerman. All present.
Okay. Receiving of the minutes, can I please have a motion to accept the minutes from January 5th and January 10th, 2022? Second? Okay. Motion made by Mr. Haberther, seconded by Mr. Biner. All those in favor of receiving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Reading and acceptance of the monthly correspondence. Mr. Ganella, do we have any correspondence this evening?
We do have one item that we received actually today regarding the mask mandate from a Mrs. Dry Doppel, requesting that the Board of Education consider unmasking the children. And that piece of correspondence is in your packet this evening.
Okay. Can we please have a motion to accept the monthly correspondence?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Haberther, seconded by Mr. David. All those in favor of accepting the public correspondence, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Now up will be the superintendent's report and presentations. Mr. Arlington.
Good evening, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. We're going to start the meeting tonight with the recognition of one of Harding's fifth graders, Madison Walker. To share more, I'm going to turn the mic over to Principal Bobnowski and Harding School Counselor, Mrs. Jeans.
Good evening, everyone. It's always an honor to get to come here tonight in front of the Board of Education and spotlight a very special Harding student. With one email, this young lady took her idea and turned it into a reality. I invited Mrs. Jeans here tonight because Mrs. Jeans was an instrumental role in helping this young lady transform her idea into something that the whole school really looks forward to. So before we invite Madison up here, I'm going to have Mrs. Jeans say some really nice things about her.
Actually, Madison, why don't you come up before I start? This way, if I mess anything up, you can clear it up for me. You want to stand over here? So, like Mr. Bobnowski said, so as you remember, last year we were fortunate enough to be in person for an abbreviated schedule last year, which was very exciting. We still had about 200 or so of our students learning virtually. Madison had sent an email to Mr. Bobnowski saying she wanted to do something to start to cheer everybody up, because even though we were in person and we were learning, the fun things about school, lunch, recess, assemblies, class parties, all that stuff was kind of put on hold due to COVID. So she wanted to come up with this idea. I had learned from these meetings that Madison is a Harry Potter fan, and I guess I'm not. I don't really know much about it, but they are divided into houses. So her idea came that she wanted to divide Harding into houses and make teams, and each of these teams each week would participate in an educational challenge. Some of those challenges were every kid had to do their classwork or homework for a week. They had to show an act of kindness to another student. They had to write a letter to an old teacher thanking them. And then the teachers would record how many students participated, and each team at the end of the week won a prize. Those prizes were something such as pajama day, crazy hair day, hat day. They got extra mask breaks was one of the ones from last year. So we did it for 6 weeks at the very end of the year, and it was so well received by the students and the teachers that this year we decided, like, we need to get this going, and we need to do it more and make it like for the whole year. So we met again at the kind of the beginning of the year, and I said, let's make a committee. It's a lot of work for just you to do. Find some friends that are interested. Let's get together. We'll meet and we'll come up with all of these ideas. So that's what we did this year. And we started to roll it back out around the holidays, which didn't really work out so well because of COVID kind of spiked and a lot of kids were out, a lot of teachers were out. But the other part of this is Madison wants to she wanted to make the kids do something good for others. So out of that came our Christmas cards for vets, which I know firsthand from the commander down at the VFW how appreciative those vets are for those cards and stuff that our school participates in. So this year we met as a committee. We've come up with a bunch of ideas and some more prizes, and it is really exciting, and I'm so honored to be a part of this and help her bring that dream to reality. But really, I just send out the emails to the teachers. It's really her and the other students that are the brains behind this, and it's very exciting. So, congratulations, Madison.
Thank you so much for choosing me for the Student Spotlight tonight. It means a lot to me. I love working on the Hawk teams. It has been such a fun experience. I want to say thank you to Mr. Bromnowski for allowing my idea to become a reality. When I emailed him last school year, he emailed me back and I was like, let's do this. I was so excited. I also want to thank my teachers who have been so encouraging and supportive, and Mrs. Jeans. She has worked with me on this from the start, and I couldn't do it without her. I also can't forget to say thank you to my dad, who spent many hours of his time helping me with the Hawk Teams videos. I love going to Harding School, and I'm so thankful for everybody there. Thank you.
Here you go.
Madison.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, thank you.
Okay. I kind of wanted to try something different, which was put all of the informational items I wanted to share in one little presentation here, just for the sole purpose of looking to keep focused. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to speak about our mid-year update of school and district goals, the results of a student safety data system collection. Just a little feedback here. Our Start Strong assessment addendum, the HIB report, and then some points to hopefully have the board facilitate a conversation around mask wearing. In focusing on our goals, I'll start with the ways our goals work together and then share some highlights at the district level, but also spotlight some achievement across the schools. For this part of the presentation, I'll end with where we go from here. So as a sort of disclaimer, this is not a comprehensive summary of our progress. but rather I'm treating tonight just as a sort of mid-year check-in. I already did the hard work of highlighting just a few of our accomplishments from a pretty healthy sized list, and so I'll share those in each of the different goal areas. You know by now I love this schematic because I think it does a good graphic job of representing how our school goals coalesce around our district goals. So at the district level, we're working on a greater embracement of diversity, equity, and inclusion, continuing to support future-ready teaching and learning, educating the community about proposed academic and facilities improvements, and working to leverage student achievement data better, and finally supporting teachers with more job-embedded professional development. Harding's goals overlay on top of these goals by focusing on expanding social emotional frameworks and recalibrating shared purposes and vision, whereas Brearley has doubled down on college and counseling and support, school culture, and climate. So these goals are broad commitments that inform our strategic priorities. Diversity, equity, and inclusion begins at the curriculum and instruction level, so we're actively looking at our curricular programs and resources to do a good job of embracing DEI. We completed a pretty wide in scope landscape assessment last year of our technology for teaching and learning. This year we're implementing some of our findings with moves such as adding to our fleet of Chromebooks and swapping out aging smartboards for more current interactive TVs. As it relates to possible facilities enhancements, the board and its committees are in conversation currently about prioritizing work and aligning that work to different potential funding sources. We continue to support ELA professional learning across grade levels and are folding in more STEM support this year through an ongoing partnership with Rutgers STEM Center. Finally, at the district level, we've repurposed professional learning communities to have a greater focus on student achievement, and I'm supporting the leadership team with outside coaching to navigate the challenges that come with shifts in mindset and moves of transitioning to a greater data culture. Students at Harding sat for the DESA, which is a social and emotional screening in November. We followed up with more in-depth screenings for students at risk. As a result, the growing number of students in need of services received help more quickly. We expanded mental health services. You'll see a slated recommendation for that tonight, to expand our relationship with Tri-County Behavioral Health, to supplement the support our psychology and counseling staff already provides. And as you heard earlier, Harding Hawks teams are in a friendly competition to promote community and teamwork. Harding continues to use its multi-tiered system of supports to make sure students receive the appropriate level of academic, behavioral, and/or social interventions. And this year, which we are really excited about, prior to the school year, for the first time, students were grouped and their intervention plans were created so that students received services beginning at the top of September. And monthly data meetings then continue with the interventionists and allow teachers to further pinpoint students' needs. At Brearley, our counseling department began getting students in a college mindset before the school year even began. The Camp College program held in August gave participants practice in writing college essays and resumes. Counselors teamed up with English teachers in October for College Essay Conference Day for personalized support. And later in the month, the college fair helped students connect with representatives from 50+ schools. There were a 4-day workshop for juniors, and of course, we bundled into that some parent training opportunities too. Moving from the scholastic to the social, the homecoming dance this year was held outdoors under a tent and was our most attended event in recent history, kind of reinforcing the different ways young people are craving to be social these days. More than 300 students turned out for the October event. Our Hispanic Heritage Night in October was a well-received celebration of culture and the first in a series of community events that Brearley is planning for diversity and inclusivity. And then, of course, as I had just mentioned actually earlier to the curriculum committee, Brearley is engaged in ongoing work to expand future-ready courses across the different content areas. As I mentioned earlier, since this is sort of just a spot of time check-in, we'll look to provide a more comprehensive update later in the year. But before I kind of segue into the next unrelated topic, I'm happy to take questions, comments, concerns. Yeah? Okay. All right. Twice a year, school districts are obliged to report out publicly on a student safety data submission collection. It used to be called the Electronic Vandalism and Violence Report. So I have just a few slides about that reporting out. So we look to self-assess in different areas around training and programs. And so I decided just to engage in a 3-year look-back period. Personally, I'm pretty happy with where we stand with the number of trainings and programs we offer to students, faculty, and parents around different elements that the student safety data system looks to assess and then collect. So these are those areas, right? We need to report on incidences of violence, vandalism, substance, weapons, confirmed HIB, alleged HIB, and other incidents of removal. So looking across those 3 years, of course, last year counts, right? But in the red, it was sort of an anomalous year. So I'm not sure how intentional we can be in looking at that data. So if you look at the blue, which was 2 years ago, versus the red, the yellow, which was the year we're currently in, I think we should be pretty proud of some of the precipitous dips we've seen in some of these offenses over time. And I think we have a lot to attribute to some of the work that I just mentioned in our district goals, right? So a lot of the work around our social, emotional programs and efforts, our HIB prevention, and even some of the restorative practices that we're engaging in, I think all kind of feed into this idea of, you know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So in other words, like, how great to be preventative around these items rather than reactive. And I think we're kind of on the right track for embracing that mindset in a widespread way. Questions about that? Okay. My presentation on Start Strong may feel like deja vu or Groundhog's Day, but because I presented it now several times, but I just want to share why. So you may recall that I presented this Start Strong data in the fall, right? It was released, then we had 60 days to share that out, so we were in compliance with that timeline. But we also needed to report out on the subgroups, which was not made available during those 60 days. So that really didn't make much sense. But you already had that data, and then I resent the subgroup data to you in my Friday update. I'm not sure there was a strong need to represent all of the Start Strong assessment data in the different cluster areas again. So I'm happy to take questions if you had the opportunity to review the subgroup data. If you haven't, I'm happy to take questions at a later date and time. But what I've done is taken the subgroup data that looks to break down students' achievement by race, gender, special ed, regular ed, and socioeconomic status, and included that in the original presentation as an addendum that we have posted on the website. And when you drill down into that data, you see there is an opportunity gap for several subgroups, including minoritized students and special ed students. So as a team, we're looking at that data to see how it drives programs and services, particularly like Title I efforts, how we use Title I money, and what type of supplemental experiences we can give to some of the subgroups to close that opportunity gap. Yeah. Questions? No. Okay. This is kind of a weird flow, right? But putting it all together, trying to be efficient here. Also in your packet, you have HIB results for January. There were no reported cases, investigated cases at Brearley, and there were 2 cases at Harding. One was founded, one was unfounded. The summaries of those are a little bit on the detailed side, so I'll give you a second to review that if you haven't. as you look at that, just a reminder, in a later resolution, you're voting to affirm, deny, or modify the results from our December report that I presented out before the winter holiday. Questions? No?
Kyle, just a quick one. In the student discipline report, the student ID column, is that showing up in the fashion that it is because the Excel column is not wide enough? That's my assessment as an Excel person.
Probably.
Yeah, okay, because it looks
Sorry
like
about
the
that.
same, if you want to assume that's an identifier, it looks
Yeah.
like the same people are
Now
fighting.
that you brought that to our attention, I'm not even sure why we need to include that. But yes, short answer, yes. That concludes my report.
I just have one question from the last, and I forgot the numbers or whatever, it's okay.
Sure.
Just the number, the last time you reported that there was I think a significant number of teacher absentees in January, in your January report. Is that still occurring, or are we better at it now, or?
No, there's been a tremendous improvement.
Okay,
Much of that was around COVID, right, and the uptick of surging
Okay.
cases, back down to a very manageable number.
great, thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Do you want me to segue into the others?
Well, I know that the next part of the conversation is around optional mask wearing, and I've had the opportunity now to speak to each board committee. If you weren't on a board committee, then I gave you a phone call just to see how you were feeling about optional mask wearing. My recommendation is on March 7th to make mask wearing optional. I know we're capable of having a conversation around that idea, but the teacher and me wanted just to present some ideas that we could converse about, and some reminders, right? We've always remained flexible and responsive to the guidance that's been released. Right now, we have very low transmission rates and a healthy relationship with our local health department, so all of our decisions are made in tandem with the Kenilworth Health Office. We've always followed the essence of the DOH and DOE guidance. I'm seeing the governor allowing for optional masks on March 7th as right in line with that commitment. I just proudly shared all of the great ways that we've been working to enhance school climate and culture, and so as masks become optional, if that's the will of the board, then we want to make it really clear to the school community that we won't tolerate anyone who gives anyone else a hard time for not wearing their mask. We will take that very seriously. I met with the principals today, and they certainly agree. Another sort of penultimate point I want to make is that throughout the pandemic, Madison spoke to being right in school. Even last year when lots of schools weren't, we've always allowed for the maximum allowable under the law and the guidance. We haven't played doctor, or I haven't played doctor, but rather leaned into the guidance heavily, and so if it's allowable to be mask optional, I think that's the smart move to make. The governor's statement that we're not going to manage COVID to zero, and that, as we shift from a pandemic to an endemic, like how do we navigate certain circumstances around COVID, I think is a really powerful idea that we may wish to consider too. And then the last point I have here is that right now we're comfortable as a team recommending to you to have masks optional, and over the next couple weeks we'll be having further conversations about other health and safety protocols we have in place now, and whether it makes good sense to sort of relax some of them, like contact tracing and others. We're not quite there yet, but I do feel mask optional is the way to go. But I'm happy, again, these were just kind of points that we can lean into or not, but it's for the board to discuss.
Before we entertain a motion to let any public make any statements about the masks, does the board want to have a discussion or say anything about it? No? Everybody's okay?
When we had our meeting earlier, committee meeting, I expressed, I thoroughly believe that mask optional should be the way to go. Once they give us permission to allow the students not to have them, there's no reason why we should force those who don't want to wear them to have to wear them, but allow those who feel more comfortable with them on to do so.
Thank you.
So
Anybody?
so I just have, what if the numbers start going back up? Then are we just gonna rely on what the governor says, or are we gonna make our own decision if,
Yeah,
let's say that the infection rates are like 50% or 30% again, or we have the option to go back to saying masks are required?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a conversation we'll have to have, and I think what's pressing to note that I didn't note up here is that prior to March 7th, we're supposed to be getting additional guidance from the DOH, which may in fact have caveats like that, right?
Okay.
It may say something like, you know, when you reach this transmission threshold, masks, you know, are a must. And so, as I mentioned earlier, if we've been following the guidance all along and doing the maximum allowable, we should continue to do that. Other things that I didn't note, but maybe should be made explicit, are that masks are still required on buses, so for school transportation, athletics, field trips. Yeah, but I think we really, over the next 3 weeks, are eagerly anticipating that guidance to see how to unpack it and then apply it too.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Since there is public here tonight who may want to comment on this topic, I would entertain a motion to open up the meeting to the public, limited to discussing Governor Murphy's lifting of the mask mandate in schools effective March 7, 2022. May I have a motion to open the meeting to the public? Okay, second. Okay, motion made by Mrs. Drogan, seconded by Mr. David. All those in favor of opening the meeting to the public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, motion carries. The meeting is now open to the public for comment only regarding the mask mandate lifting on March 7th.
Public comment will now be accepted. The Board of Education sets a limit for the public to speak at the Board of Education to 5 minutes per person unless prior permission has been granted by the Board of Education for extended time pursuant to Kenilworth Board of Education Bylaw 0167. Please include your name and address in all comments.
Anybody like to speak?
Hello, Jill Rappa, 23 Dorset, Kenilworth. I came to hear if you were making any decisions. I'm really relieved to hear that you would be going mask optional. And I wanted to clap. I was very happy to hear that and relieved, because it's time for parents to start making the decision for their children and not other people any longer. So I hope that it stays that way, and just thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, is there a motion to close the meeting to the public?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Haberther, seconded by Mr. David. All those in favor of closing the meeting to the public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carried. The meeting is now closed to the public for comment regarding the lifting of the mask mandate on March 7th, 2022. We'll now move into report of committees, review of resolutions, and board discussions. First up, Finance, Facilities, and Negotiations, Mr. Ladati.
Hi, thank you. I've got a pretty lengthy report, so just bear with me. The audit deadline has been pushed back until March. The auditor will be at our March meeting to review the findings to the board. The budget process has begun at the committee level. On February 3rd, the committee met to review phase one budgets for Harding, guidance, and special education. On the 8th, we met for Brearley curriculum and instruction and athletic budgets. The budget reviews are detailed and include informative discussions on instructional programs. The administrators will present the highlights at their March 7th meeting. We're not going to make them go through the entire budget. They're just going to hit the highlights, what's most important, what costs have gone up, et cetera. So, or else I'll be here all night, to be honest with you. The committee also met with the district architects to go over planned referendum projects. On February 24th, the committee will continue to work with on phase 3 of the budget, which is the school business administrator's documentation. I guess that's Vince's report, if you all know. The governor's budget address, originally scheduled for February 22nd, has moved to March 8th, with state aid is a critical component to our budget. This delay is not helpful. We may need to modify our meeting calendar to adapt to the new deadlines. The solar project is wrapping up. The Kenilworth Fire Department toured the project with the contractor and the district personnel. The purpose was to familiarize the fire department with the various shutoffs and safety devices. The Energy Savings Incentive Program moved into Phase 2, which is lighting replacement at Brearley, along with the chiller replacement in both buildings and the boiler replacement at Harding. Due to supply chain concerns, several components have already been ordered and will be stored on site until they're ready for installation. That hopefully will prevent some delays. We need to go out and get requests for a proposal for custodian services. Those contracts are up, and they expire in June, so they're getting near. We got to get that done. The district maintenance department did an outstanding job on the snow removal over the past few weeks. I think you could all see them out there working. And the committee did not review any policy changes this month for board consideration. So with that, I'm going to go to resolutions. 1 through 3 are the standard fare. Superintendent Arlington, that's part of the resolution 1. And I've reviewed the billing and financials. They all appear to be in order with no outliers. There's no transactions over our 5,000 reporting requirement. Mr. Arlington, his report he just gave, and also his update on Friday, went over resolutions 7, 8, and 10, and 11. So if you have any questions of them, we could ask when we get there. 6 is the town-sponsored car show. The indemnification agreement is contained in that, and there's also insurance confirmation. The school data, Kai went over 7. Diligent urgent care test is the COVID provider for testing. Intern health care is the nursing agreement. They will supply nurses to us if necessary at $60 an hour. And that's basically all I have. So,
Did you say earlier that the audit was being delayed? Or the result? Is there any concerns there, or is it just?
It was delayed by the state.
Okay.
The actuarial numbers from the pension hadn't been released, and they have to incorporate that by statute.
Okay, so it's nothing to do with us?
Nothing to do with us. No, every district in the state is facing this.
And I think for the last 10 years straight, the pension issues have been
It's always
delayed every year.
Yes, not this late, but yes.
Right. It's always delayed our audit.
Okay.
I don't know why that doesn't get cured, after several years of going through that
My
process.
understanding is something to do with GASB, which are governmental accepted accounting principles, which there's a differential between the fiscal years, pensions fiscal years.
Gotcha. Okay, whatever. Still always delays it.
Yep.
Questions, anybody else?
Yeah, on 8,
Yes.
I'm not quite sure what that is, but it's for up to 3 students with job development and stuff. Can I get a little more information
That was in
on that?
Kyle's report. I don't know if you read that, and I'm sorry, I didn't address that. It was in Kyle's report from on Friday, I believe you mentioned.
Yeah, so Bridges to Employment is an outside vendor that helps special ed students who require significant job coaching and life skills as they transition out of school and into the real world. So with this comes instruction in job skills and classwork for students, but then they also take students into the community, right? So a student who may need support in working at a car dealership or the food market, to support them as part of their IDP.
I just was thinking, up to the maximum of 3, that's not very many, so I get, maybe there's not that much need, or?
It's not very many, you're right.
Okay.
We haven't used a group like this before, so this is a little bit of a trial for us.
And the COVID testing, number 9, that would be ongoing. What is the cost for that, or who pays for that, and how long do we expect to be doing
The state
it?
pays for that.
Pardon?
The state.
Okay.
I think we just have to pay for the overhead cost, or?
Well, this is different from the.
Oh, okay, I thought you were talking about the COVID.
This is, yes, Well, there are multiple types of tests that we're doing.
Okay, sorry.
This is the diligent urgent care.
So this was
This-
test to stay, which allows students who are identified as a close contact but are asymptomatic to test on days 0, 3, and 5. And if they're negative on those days, they may stay in school. It's a way of avoiding quarantining unnecessarily. It's paid for CARES money as long as we meet the threshold of like 35 students a month. If not, there's a nominal fee where the district would need to make up the difference. I think it's wise to try this for a month. Of course, I contracted with this group prior to knowing that contact tracing could be going by the wayside. So
That's what I'm saying, is that there's an end in sight here.
there very well could be, yeah, sure.
Okay. I just have a little, Resolution 12, staffing services for interim healthcare.
Yeah, so sometimes we need a sub-nurse, and we can't find any from our own
Okay,
internal
subs.
cache of them. Particularly during the Omicron surge, we relied on interim healthcare to provide us per diem nurses to help with medical tasks.
Okay.
We have several other contractors. This is just one additional one.
Understood. And the other two things, just quickly, 14 and 15. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not you. You're gonna get it.
Jump the gun.
Okay. That's it, thank you.
Anybody else? Questions for Mr. Ladati? Okay, thank you. Up next, bless you, Personnel and Management, Mr. Haberton.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. There's 12 resolutions tonight, 14 and 15. Accept the resignations are of the varsity and junior varsity coaches, basketball coaches. Resolution 16 is the approval of paraprofessional aid assignments, hourly rates. Resolution 17 and 18 adjust maternity leaves, or accept maternity leave, sorry. Resolution 19 is a leave replacement for case manager coverage. Resolution 20 is the payouts and adjusted payments for the aforementioned resignations in resolutions 14 and 15. Resolution 21 is the assignment of preschool assignment for inclusion education for teacher at Harding. Resolution 22 are stipends for COVID testing attendance. 23 is the approval of student teachers. And Resolution 20, am I skipping? No. Sorry. Resolution 24 is the approval of home instruction. And 25 is the approval of substitute staff.
Okay, so Resolution 14, 15, two people resigned or immediately. I was wondering, is there anything that happened that they would just both go exactly at the same time?
That's a private.
It's a personnel matter, and I did
Can't
let the
discuss it.
board know that in writing a
Okay,
few months ago.
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Questions? Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Haberthor. Next up, curriculum instruction, Mr. Jangles.
Sure, thank you. Before I get into the resolutions, just a quick update. The curriculum committee met before this meeting. We discussed a few topics. We discussed some potential changes to information processing and some potential new courses that seemed really interesting and really exciting. We discussed math sequencing, potential changes there. Also, health and PE curriculum requirements as it relates to NJSLS. Discussed that for a little bit, as well as special education graduation requirements. And we also were tasked with some homework to review some calendar options for next year as well. Those are some of the main things that we discussed. Moving on to resolution 26 is the adoption of certain, English ELL plan for 21 to 24 school years. Resolution 27 was, changes or updates to certain curriculum to align with NJ SLS as well. And then Resolution 28 was the HIB from December 2021. That is all.
You? Any questions for Mr. Jankowicz? No? Okay, thank you very much. Any old business? Any new business? No? Okay, we don't have any public, but should we still open and close?
Should.
Okay.
There's policies.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I thought we weren't doing, I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. So policy review, Kyle, you doing
Sure.
for 29 and 30?
Yeah, for policy 29, that's a new policy that I emailed the board about, entitled civility. I think it's a good policy to have in place. It sets some parameters around like decorum in the way in which we ought to communicate as a school community. I believe the steering committee looked at that. And then Resolution 30 deals with comprehensive health and PE, which we just reviewed, the curriculum committee, and then sexual harassment, which is a revision to a pre-existing policy, and that too was in the summary that I sent the board last week.
I just want to thank the students that did this for a sweet thing. It was very nice, so I'll do that publicly, sorry. I go through old and new business so quick. It was a nice surprise today.
I will relay that message to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to Mrs. Parenti, whose students worked on it.
Just to go back, any old business or new
Just have a
business?
question on the last policy. What are some of the things that don't seem to be fitting into comprehensive health and physical education in that mandate? I guess, the African American accomplishments, the inclusion, the sexual activity, I mean, is that all part of a physical education? I understand the health reasons, but
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like the state's burying stuff in a mandate for physical ed instead of being the regular curriculum, right?
Yeah, we were just, just talking about that at the
Okay.
curriculum committee level. I mean, these are mandates that we're obliged to follow. They
I
won't all be
understand.
taught in health and PE. It just seems to be like a neat way that the policy provider bundled them together for us. But yeah, this learning is a shared responsibility across the different content areas.
Yeah, I have no issue with it. I just think it doesn't belong here, right? I mean,
Right, no.
Yeah.
it doesn't belong in that policy.
Correct. I should say I don't disagree.
And it's not any issue to do with us. I understand it's coming from the
Yeah.
policymakers, so.
Sure.
Thank you. That's it. Sorry.
Good, anybody else? Okay, at this point, we'll open the meeting to the public. Is there a motion to open the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Okay, second? Okay, motion made by Mr. David, seconded by Mr. Haberther. All those in favor of opening the meeting to the public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Can I please have,
Seeing no one, I make a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
okay, we have a second? Okay, motion made by Mr. David, seconded by Mr. Biner. All those in favor of closing the meeting to the public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, motion's carried, meeting is closed to the public for comment. Okay, Mr. Ganella, can we now move to vote on the resolutions, please?
Yes, we have 30 resolutions on this evening's agenda that need to be voted on. We will vote them on as a package unless there are any that need to be voted on separately.
Resolution 15, Mr. Ganella, please.
Number 15. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other resolutions need to be voted on separately? Okay, so this is for 1 through 30 on the agenda, excluding number 15. Biner. Yes. David.
Yes.
Drogan.
Yes.
Haberther.
Yes.
Jankowicz.
Yes.
Ladati.
Yes.
Tears.
Yes.
Zimmerman.
Yes.
Panici.
Yes.
Motion's carry unanimously. This is resolution number 15 on the agenda. Biner. David.
Yes.
Drogan.
Yes.
Haberther.
Yes.
Jankowicz.
Yes.
Ladati.
Yes.
Tears. Zimmerman.
Well, I'm just a quick question. as to Michelle asking to have it pulled separately? Is it because there's some sort of information involved, or
She's
just a conflict?
come to my attention, she's an employee in my building, so I have to
All right,
abstain.
so conflict, that's
Yep.
all, okay, just making sure.
Yep,
Okay, then, yes.
And Panici.
abstain.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Yeah. Mr. Canal, is there a need to go and close executive session?
No, there is not.
Okay, having said that, can I?
Motion to adjourn.
Yep, can I have a second? Second. Okay, motion made by Mr. David, seconded by Mr. Haberther. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Ayes, motion carries, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.